to Travel and Things in association with Rugged Wear, Real People, Real Clothing, Real Solutions presents In Conversation With. I am your host, David Batsoffen, and my guest today is the one, the only, Zapiro, Jonathan Shapiro. Jonathan, good day. Welcome to you.
Thanks, David. Thanks. Nice to be with you.
It's always good. It's that time of the year again. Zapiro, it's not how it looks. Your cartoons from the Daily Maverick, all put together in one book and published by Jacana.
Yep. And it's my 27th, which is quite something even for me to imagine that this is, when I got going with these books or these annuals all those years ago, it was, there was always that thing in my mind, after having had Giles lying around, the Giles annuals when I was a kid, which were the first things I really looked at carefully. So to, then to get to the point where this annual was going to be something that really is an annual, and then is number 27. It's even for me, that's quite something.
I suppose annuals for me had a whole different connotation, because growing up, my parents had a bookshop in Port Elizabeth called Novelty Bookshop. And come this time of the year, there were annuals out like Beano and all of those. And we'd get them in November, but they'd be embargoed until December. But I got to read them before any of my friends did.
Well, I have the same association as well. I mean, when I said the Giles annuals, that was one association, the first one. But then there were some other kids. Remember, we were getting. It sounds like you were getting the same English, the anglicized sort of stuff that we were, because there were American comics. They got the Harvey comics, and you got the Supermans and the Batmans and all that. But the kind of stuff that we were getting in sort of weekly doses and getting those annuals, it was very influenced by the British background. So I then started getting Play Hour and all that stuff as a little kid, and then also I got those other things, but I didn't get them like you did. I got them secondhand, for like 10 Rand, 15 Rand, whatever those prices were at the school fair or something.
Exactly.
And I used to consume Tiger and Typhoon, Tracy, and Valiant, and Lion, and all of that stuff. The Dandy Pino, all of that stuff.
Talk to me about the cartoon on the cover of this. What is the I was going to say the relationship between Cyril and that oryx?
Well, it's not how it looks. It's like definitely his protestation, speaking to the court of public opinion, which is the cartoon that it comes from has got all the initial detail kind of spelt out, because the question, it's not how it looks. And the court of public opinion, the voice is saying, well, you mean the illicit forex, the this, the that, all these things that are clearly problematic. And as it happens right now, we're hearing that the report on Pala, the initial report through Parliament, which may result in something else, is coming out, and there's serious implications. That oryx. Interestingly, the fact that people call Cyril, some people call him Buffalo or Mac Buffalo, because he's also connected with McDonald's or something. But the Buffalo thing comes from it's the same origin, that he has this farm, Pala Pala, where he buys and sells incredibly expensive animals. So it's initially buffalo, and buffalo bid that he made of 20 million, which he didn't get, I think, and it was sold for 80 million or something. But that's back, nearly a decade ago. That is buying and selling these animals, the sort of the special cattle, Ankole cattle, is it?
Those ones with the large horns. I can't think.
The horns, and then the buffaloes, and it turns out red oryx, which is incredibly special animal, very beautiful. Possibly this whole thing was around the sale of a red oryx, which is a hell of a lot of money. And then, like, why the hell was it stashed in this sofa? If we don't know. He hasn't even. He really has stuffed the whole thing up for himself by not coming clean.
He first stuffed the sofa up, then he
exactly. Good one. Yeah, he stuffed the sofa up, then he stuffed himself up. Yeah.
I just don't understand, Jonathan, and maybe you can help me out on this one. Is that when it comes to you and I, if we were to do something like this, we would have already had our day in court. We would have been locked away. But no, when it comes to politicians, and I'm thinking of your friend with the tap in his head, they duck and dive, and they'll never see the inside of a penitentiary.
The real problem for Cyril is that he wanted so badly to be seen as something different from these other politicians, the one, and he clearly is different from Jacob Zuma. He's not Jacob Zuma. Whatever stupid forex mess up he's made, and he's so rich, why does he need to do things in any way that's untoward? Or why does he allow people or let them do stuff on his farm that is out of order, when he's also meant to put everything in a blind trust? And then it turns out he didn't do that properly. So like, all of those things are, it's incredibly bad judgment. It's the level of transgression is nothing compared to somebody like Jacob Zuma, who absolutely stole the country blind with the help of other people in full-on state capture. I mean, I do think that the idea of state capture, which is to farm out aspects of what the president and the cabinet should be doing to other people, I mean, that's full-on state capture. It's not just general corruption.
A lot of those people feature in this annual.
No, exactly. So Cyril, to be, I mean, the various things that he's done or not done to kind of separate him from Jacob Zuma, this new dawn, are just, it's ridiculous. He continued to use some of those people, the very corrupt ones, in his own cabinet, and he kept them around and all that because he's scared of the factions. He has messed up on his own doorstep with this whole business with Phala Phala. He has been incredibly timid and shown himself to be without a backbone, again, when dealing with not only people who shouldn't be in his cabinet, but just dealing with things that are a result of state capture. And where the hell was he during that state capture? He was Zuma's deputy president. So it's pretty depressing, like where he has not separated himself from Zuma in the way that he should, considering he's not a bad guy like Zuma.
There is a cartoon in here which features Cyril as spineless. It's a whole series of panels, and I can't find it very quickly now. But for somebody like yourself, who's a political satirist and cartoonist, this is grist for your mill, because they're a never-ending source of material for you. Whether that ends up in court for you or not is neither here nor there. It's almost a case of you can't stop yourself.
Yeah, but there's a thing where as a cartoonist, as a satirist, I'm saying bring it on, but I actually I supported the new South Africa when it came into being, and the Constitution and Mandela and the way that Parliament started to work and all of that. And then as things became more and more corrupt, it's fantastic for me as a cartoonist, but I don't want to see the country going down that road. And then we went down the AIDS denial road with Thabo Mbeki, and then I was really at odds with the system, and then the arms deal comes along, and the arms deal brings in Zuma, and then then things come to a head, and then they come to a head again, and then they come to a head again. And so as a South African, some of the times I just make it stop. I'm happy that you're providing me with this stuff to work with, but really, I mean, I would like the country to improve. I mean, it's phenomenal for a cartoonist, but as a South African, I mean, I'm often as depressed as the next person.
Well, I suppose even more so, because you have to watch the news. I can choose not to watch the news because it makes me depressed. But you have to, because you have to keep abreast of what's happening. You can't say, I won't watch anything and I'll just make stuff up. Although even if you did make stuff up, it would probably be as good as whatever was going on in the news. But the
I mean, I've done cartoons on that kind of subject. That, you know, like myself feeling useless. I did it more than 20 years ago, lying on a couch, like feeling, you know, psychiatrist's couch, feeling totally useless because reality is far weirder than anything I can dream up. You
know? The one that everybody, I don't know whether they're pussyfooting around it or it's yet to come up, is the most recent visit that Cyril did to go and say, have tea with the king, and to take an entourage with him who seems to have taken curtains from the Union building to wear.
I mean, you know, all of those things are hectic. My take on that was, before I heard any details of what was coming out of this stuff, I played with something. It turns out there were memes that were doing similar things, which I really went into that. I like doing those kind of. I'm not a royalist, but I like kind of playing with the pomp and circumstance and all that. You know, so Cyril arrives at Buckingham Palace, and there's all these, you know, the various guard behind him. You know, the guys with the big bearskin hats and the horse guards and all of that. I play with that stuff, and all these flunkies dressed in their outfits coming to, you know, any luggage, sir. And the luggage is, he says, just laundry and appliances, take us to your plug points. And you know, so the whole ESCOM thing, because that's real. I mean, it's weird, but so you want to really kind of play with it and make it kind of big and grand, but in a weird sense, just imagine those people are genuinely arriving there with stuff that's kind of needs charging and stuff they haven't washed or whatever, because
for somebody who's trying to rid South Africa of colonialism, to go to the height, to the epicenter of colonialism, and to go and share, you know, break bread with. It's so hypocritical at the end of the day. It really is.
I mean, there's so much. I mean, the hypocrisy and the double standards and all that. I mean, wherever you look. I mean, if you look, you know, the World Cup is on at the moment, and people are making a huge song and dance about Qatar, and so am I. About the human rights abuses, about the anti-gay stuff. I mean, 6,000 people who lost their lives because the migrant workers, because the work standards are so poor, and the human rights, you know, the provisions are so pathetic, and they just don't value the lives of people who come there. And then, so we're all making a song and dance out of that because it's real. But there are so many times when people don't. I mean, when the World Cup goes to somewhere else, I mean, it's sort of, people just want to see the World Cup, and they kind of, you know, turn a blind eye to. I mean,
where it is.
So many countries have got really bad track records in so many respects as well.
Jonathan, looking back over the annual, if you go back, you know, I take it this is not quite January to December. This is probably last year, August to August type of thing, because you've got
October, like kind of October to
October, because you
end of September usually, roughly. Yeah.
If you look back to October 2021, and you look at cartoons from then, and you go, really? Nothing's changed. It's exactly, you know.
It hasn't. In this instance, we do have, every now and then you do have something, and that is, you look back then and you think, we were still under the COVID regulations.
Correct.
That's the one difference. So, and at that time, of course, you start to have the cartoons that are saying, okay, we did have the scientific evidence that the government, initially with the supposedly respectable Mkhize at the head, was running the show and listening to the scientists. Then we find out, A, that Mkhize is completely corrupt, and B, that actually they haven't been really listening to the scientists that well, and that lockdown is now hurting the country more because the virus is getting less and less virulent, even though it spreads more easily. And by this time, the best thing to do is to take away the lockdown and end the state of disaster. So those cartoons at the beginning of the book are about that kind of stuff, where, you know, I've got Cyril with his security blanket which is the state of disaster, you know, like Linus in Peanuts, and they're saying it's hard to. Oh, I think my
your board just collapsed.
I'll just
While Jonathan rearranges his studio, that's the cartoon that he's referring to.
Oh yeah. So taking it back is harder than we thought. The medical science, you know, the medical science gives the provisions, but medical science has a hard time taking it back from a politician, because a politician will keep whatever they can get.
Well, this is exactly it. I mean, they still can't explain why people had to stop smoking, other than certain ministers. Other than certain ministers having a hand in the tobacco industry, which we won't go into now.
I'll confess that right at the start, when we didn't know anything about the disease very much, but we did know that it was a respiratory one. So right at the very start, I thought that the smoking, like some sort of regulations on smoking, was maybe not a bad idea. But then, you know, they also did the alcohol thing, and then they also did the hot, cold chicken, hot chicken, and open-toed sandals and stuff. You realize that it was like, you know, I'll just make it up as I go along, and you know, very quickly one realized that the smoking thing was like somebody's agenda.
Yeah,
I'm anti-smoking, but that was somebody's agenda, and then the alcohol stuff was, you know, also somebody's agenda, and all these other things were just these various fiefdoms within the ANC and the collective, affecting their kind of sort of whatever they wanted over Cyril, and Cyril's weakness as president because he's scared of the factions. Back to that same thing. So it was, you know, it became a total stuff up, and especially because the person who we put our trust in, the health minister, was totally corrupt. And bizarrely, that takes one to the next point, which is that how corrupt does one have to be off the agenda as a potential president? I mean, it seems like corruption is like a sort of, you know, good on your CV. It's incredible.
If I look at the back page of your book, you've got people like Mandela, Bishop Tutu, and a variety of others, politicians on here. Did you get to meet these people and present them with cartoons, or did they phone you up? Did Madiba ever phone you up and go, "Oh, Jonathan, that picture that you did of me is so good. Please, will you bring me a copy?"
You do a good Madiba. I think we're gonna have dueling Madibas here any second, because I do one as well. Oh yes.
So answer me.
One day he well, I got a phone call, and I didn't know it was him, and it turned out, I mean, I thought it was somebody playing a joke, and I've told the story so many times, but it really was the most, you know, when the person said to me, this is in 1998, hold on for President Mandela, and hello, is that Zapiro? And I said, yes. And he said, this is President Mandela. And I said, well, it sounds like you, so it must be you. And then he said, I am very upset with you. And I said, I'm sorry, what have I done? And by now, you know, actually worried.
Yeah.
And he was just joking. And he was upset because I was changing from one newspaper to another, and he wouldn't see the cartoons when he was in Cape Town, because he saw them when he was in Parliament. The only place he could see the cartoons from the Sowetan was reprinted in the Cape Argus, and then they would be not there anymore. And the point was that, you know, that he actually phoned me himself. And he also, you know, I have told the story like 200 times. So I'll cut to the end bit, which is that I said, well, yeah, I just want to say one more thing. Even that the thing that means the most to me is that, you know, in the years since I met you, because I'd met him like 4 years before, you know, you would have seen the cartoons getting more and more critical of you and of the ANC, well, ANC and of government. I said to him actually, and he said, "Oh, but that is your job," which is pretty amazing. So yeah, so he, I mean, I had met him in '94, and then I've met him, and I've been to visit him at his, well, actually after that phone call went to visit. So I visited him at his residence in '94. Then I went to 2 of his different homes with my family, and I had all kinds of interactions with him. Same with the Arch. The Arch actually even more. I mean, he was obviously not in government. He was very accessible.
He's the only one of that sort of major triumvirate that I've missed. Jacob Zuma I've worked with, Madiba I worked with, but the Arch slipped through my net, unfortunately, and now it's too late.
Well, I live in Cape Town, and I met the Arch first in 1985 briefly, and then I met him again in the in the 90s, and then invited him to come and launch my my first annual in '96, and he came, and he was such a wonderful sport about the cartoons. Of course, I was doing even fewer kind of cartoons that you could call critical of him. The closest I came was sort of gentle ripoff of the sort of religiosity of his, like during the TRC, when he was kind of like these people who did these things are also God's children, and the atrocities, and God says, let me get back to you on that one. It's so that's the kind of, I wasn't doing anything critical of him, but and I was very supportive. Madiba is slightly different as the head of state. Clearly, being in government, there would be things where you're dealing with countries with human rights records that you don't want to deal with, really, or you allowing too many corrupt people to hang on in your cabinet, or you not living up to all the promises, even as Madiba. There were various things, or not doing enough about HIV and AIDS as president. But the Arch. So anyway, the Arch. He arrives at this book launch of mine in '96, and it's at the Old Town House in Cape Town. This lovely old building in the middle of town with ivy growing on the walls, and there's a lot of people because the Arch is going to be there, and I must be more than 450 people, all down on this level in the beautiful sunshine. And there's this balcony where I'm already there, and a couple other people in the Arch we're waiting for the Arch. And he comes through in his purple robes and walks out onto this balcony and overlooking all these people. And he says, "I feel like Juliet." And that was the Arch. I mean, he had like Madiba, had a fantastic sense of humor, and
you
would come up with
stuff like that, Jonathan.
No, it's
really
stunning.
It's in the moment.
Yeah.
I have to ask you, these the cartoons in here are from the Daily Maverick. Do you have, and I know this is difficult because as a parent, it's like saying, what is your favorite child, while all your children are standing around you, waiting for you to say, it's Bob, and then Betty's upset. So do you have a favorite cartoon, and why?
Yeah, and you know that I was recently asked this question, and my first answer was, no way, I can't choose. And then I thought, well, look, let me not completely cop out of it. Let me pick one cartoon from this annual that does what I think a cartoon should do. So it may not be the best drawing, it may not be the most pyrotechnic, and like the biggest sort of, like when you look at it, you say, oh, it's not the most shocking. It may not be, but it's got that twist that I want, and it's got that thing where I'm tapping into sort of public sentiment. So I thought this is one of the cartoons that I like, and it's about Nathi Mthethwa's flag project. So the moment he announced,
what page is it on, Jonathan?
Page 75. So the moment he announced this 22 million rand monumental flag, I did this quote, and not only that, but he also wanted to do it as a sort of a unity thing. So my 22 million rand monumental flag will unite the nation. Indeed. The second panel, it's like I could tap into public sentiment so fast in that twist. Like, bleep bleep monumental idiot. It united. So just that word, indeed, and him running like hell. People responded to this cartoon enormously because it said exactly what people were feeling and thinking. But in a cartoon, you can say it in a way that is visual and is funny and has that twist, and like it's very fast, and so that, to me, that cartoon has got what a cartoon should do and what I'm trying to do with the cartoon.
But what
and
makes me...
so that's why it's one of my favorites. Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that. What makes me scared now that you raise this project is that, has it gone away, or has it just been, will it come back to bite us in the bum when all of a sudden there are photographers on a mountain photographing this thing, and it's gone from 22, what was it originally going to? 22 million to 222 million.
Okay, turn the page, go to page 76.
Yeah.
And just like put that one up, and you'll see the very, very shortly after that cartoon, I did this next one. 22 million rand flagpole canned. Erectile dysfunction.
Jonathan, we're almost...
It's one of those projects that was so roundly condemned so fast by the public that the politician had to say, no, I can't do it. So that one is dead in the water. It'll never happen, I promise you.
It's like e-tolls. Eventually they'll go away. We're running out of time, unfortunately. The book is not, it's not how it looks. It's by Zapiro. It's from his Daily Maverick cartoons. It's published by Jacana. Jonathan, as always, thank you so much for taking time out of a very busy schedule to chat to me. Take care. Have a great festive season, and we'll chat again in 2023. I'm sure you'll have more people to satirize then. I'm
sure I will. And thanks, David. You too. Enjoy the season. Yeah.
Cheers for now. My guest today on In Conversation With has been cartoonist Zapiro.